This is M-Dog20, Matt Cross, and you are listening to True Heel Heat.
This is Timothy Barr from MLW. Make sure you give a listen to one of the greatest podcasts in the world, True Heel Heats.
What's up, True Heel Heat? True Heel Heat. What's up? True Heel Heat. All hands is on me.
Alright, hello, True Heel Heat. I'm the AEW World Champion MJF. Just in case you're deaf, dumb, blind, stupid, or since you listen to this podcast poor, you're listening to True Heel Heat, and I apologize for that.
Hello, hello, hello. It is me, your True Heel Phenom SP3. We are live on the True Heel Heat YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter for our Ring of Honor Final Battle 2023 review. Breaking down the final show from Ring of Honor of 2023 as only we can. And I am joined by my esteemed colleague. You see him on Elite Heat every single week here on the True Heel Heat YouTube channel. You've seen him on the Flash It podcast throughout 2023. You've seen him on reviews before. He is here to talk about Ring of Honor. It is the True Jaw Josh. How you doing? I think you're muted, sir. They got you. They got you. When you picked up the headphones, I saw it muted you.
Oh, no, I think that was me.
Okay.
I mean, look forward to talking about the show. Got some thoughts about it.
Got some thoughts, and I hope all of you watching, if you're watching live, watching on demand, you have some thoughts as well. We appreciate y'all for joining us live here on the True Heel Heat YouTube channel. Appreciate y'all if you're watching on demand. Show that appreciation back. Simplest way possible. Drop the thumbs up on this video. Share this video with all your wrestling fans, friends, and family on all your favorite social media platforms. If you are new to the True Heel Heat YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell to stay notified for all the great content here. And of course, sound off in the live chat. We love to interact with all of you. Give your thoughts on Ring of Honor Final Battle 2023 in the live chat, in the comments down below if you're watching on demand. And of course, if you're feeling generous, it is the holiday season. We appreciate all the support on both parts of the True Heel Heat Flash It podcast from yesterday. If you want the whole podcast in full, that's on the homepage. You can check it out in full, the entire podcast, instead of splitting it up into the two live streams that we did yesterday. But we appreciate all the support on there. And you can show your support here in the live chat. We will make sure we highlight your comment on screen, and any little bit matters. It counts, and it goes back to the contributors that you see here. So we greatly appreciate it. We already got in the live chat with us Vala B, who says, I went in with very little expectations except the main event and came out quite happy. He says, my one word for the show is happy. What about you, True Jaw Josh? What is your one word overall thoughts on Ring of Honor Final Battle 2023?
I would say glad. I'm glad it was a good show.
You came in with similar low expectations?
Yes, just because no build up, almost no build up to it. The only significant build up was the main event, which I was glad I got the main event spot because I was like, it should go to the women, just because that's only been like the most prominent storyline for Ring of Honor that's been going on. So
Yeah.
it made sense. It made sense for that to be the main event. My biggest dislikes has nothing to do with the show itself. It's more of where they decided to do the show at. I wouldn't have done a big venue in Texas for Final Battle. I would have kept it at least Northeast. I would have kept it in either Maryland or Hammerstein, New York. You know, that would have jawed very well. You would have gotten over 2,000 people. You would have gotten well over 2,000 people. You would have gotten more people than they got in Texas. It's just one of those things where I know TK is like trying to expand. He's trying to get like these big markets. The problem is that Ring of Honor right now, they're not polished. They're not polished enough for those kind of areas, in my opinion. So I think you need to go back to basics when it comes to that. Focus on the Northeast. That's how they usually do it. Focus on heavily on the Northeast or even on the East Coast. And then once you get that establishment, once you get like a real direction, that's when you go start spreading out. And I think that's been part of the problem. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's been problems with it, but that's one of the main problems in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like Ring of Honor is trying to run buildings that is appropriate for AEW, and it's mainly because of a convenience factor that they can get these buildings for 2 nights. Why they did it in Garland. They did it in Garland because they were doing Collision in Garland on the Saturday, and they can get the building for 2 straight nights. It makes sense. I get that logistic wise, it worked, but visually, I would have preferred the Hammerstein Ballroom look and feel than this.
Yeah,
this feels like AEW. You're slapping on the ROH onto an AEW show.
Yeah, that's also been my problem too with it. It comes off to like AEW, and they should treat it like this.
This year, like last year, he did a good job at. Even though he didn't have TV, they did like video package, and the pay-per-views were all great last year. This year, they had a really good build-up to Supercard of Honor because that was back in the Universal Studios, the first couple of episodes of Ring of Honor TV on Honor Club. So they had a concentrated, focused build to Eddie Kingston and Claudio, Mark Briscoe and Samoa Joe, even like something like Athena and Yuka Sakazaki got some build-up. Like they build up to all their major matches for Supercard of Honor. But Death Before Dishonor and Final Battle, outside of Athena's matches, it's been shit as far as the build. Like it's been shit. Like even Paige and Tony Nese had a good build to this pay-per-view, but overall, the last 2 pay-per-views for Ring of Honor have been poorly built to when you have weekly television.
Yeah, it's many factors to that. I just think just like I've been saying for a while, I think TK needs to go with the WWE Triple H approach, meaning give it to somebody, give ROH to somebody, have them focus on ROH, make it what they envision, and takes off the load off of TK. He's not doing so much. He's producing 2 shows, and then you give him Ring of Honor. It's too much, and I think he should acknowledge that too. It's okay to say that, hey, it's too much. And I think we will all understand
that. I think that would get him a lot of points in the perception, kind of like war that goes on in regards to him and his status as an owner. That would show a lot of self-awareness if he realized that it's too much and that he gives it to someone like a Will Washington, like a Jimmy Jacobs, like a Christopher Daniels. He has all these minds backstage, old and new, that he can kind of give it to, and even if it's like a team of individuals, that works out well as well. But I do agree with you. I always said I pinpoint the downfall of AEW's top-notch booking and builds to pay-per-views. I dated all back to Tony Khan announcing he purchased Ring of Honor in March of 2022, because that was the week of Revolution, which was one of their best builds. And then the build after that for Double or Nothing 2022 was up and down, inconsistent. Felt like he didn't even pay attention to the build until a couple of weeks before. Then after that was Forbidden Door with all the injuries. Then it was All Out with Punk coming back, and there's all the talk with the online stuff. Then the fallout from Brawl Out and All Out, and the build up to Full Gear, where it felt like they were just trying to put things together because they had everything fall apart in the after All Out. Like, yeah, everything kind of stems back to him purchasing Ring of Honor. So I do agree with you. If he gives it to somebody else, we wouldn't have to worry about that, and maybe we can get more concentrated builds to these pay-per-views and get hype for it. Like, this is the one of the few pay-per-views we did not do a preview for, because I was like, what are we previewing?
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of matches were thrown in like last minute. Kingston wasn't even announced until like the show?
The pre-show. The pre-show. Announced the Ring of Honor World Champion.
Which is weird, because I'm like, isn't he the Ring of Honor World Champion? Because
he is until the end of the tournament.
Oh, he is? All right. Because
he is until the end of the tournament.
Yeah, even that's confusing, and then he ended up winning anyway. But it's just, I mean, even with that, it's like, why didn't you put that Kingston? Like, if this was the plan, why didn't you just announce it before? You know what I mean?
He had a proving ground match on the Go Home show against Evil Uno. So it's like, you could have done a quick little backstage promo there to announce a match for him there. It's at least a day before.
Yeah, it was just like, it was just a little weird to me. It was just, some of the matches were like that, like the El Vikingo match was last minute.
I think that was announced last weekend.
Yeah, like last weekend. So that, I mean, I'm glad the show was good. I mean, it was better than I expected, thankfully, but it's just those little things that matters. Like, you want people to focus on the show, just do a nice build up.
We're mainly focusing on what was bad about the show going into it before we actually get into the show. So it's fine. Frantic Rose saying, "What's up, SP3, Josh and Chad? ROH Final Battle was really good, and the women's TV title is interesting. We'll get to that in a bit." Vala B saying, "Hammerstein, like it was originally rumored to be." Yeah, I got very excited when that rumor came out that they were going to go back to Hammerstein, because it was like, that is the intimate feel that I want for Ring of Honor. That's why Universal Studios worked for the TV show. Like, doing it pre and before Collision or Dynamite, it feels very Velocity.
It does, and that's the problem with our ROH right now. It's like, you're getting these squash matches. I just think they need to go back to the ROH formula, like what made it good. Taking an hour, make it very simple, focus on the wrestling. And then the build-ups what happened, right? Like, that's how they usually approached it. They approached it like that.
What Tony needs to do is just steal Triple H's idea. Do NXT, the Black and Gold era, with Ring of Honor. Like you said, make it a 1 hour show, 3 to 4 matches, pre-tape promos, and build stories, build stars. You can do that. The hour and a half, 2 hour shows. Anytime Ring of Honor episodes 2 hours, I'd just be like, yeah, this was just filler, a lot of filler.
Yeah. Because if anything, we could even say that the NXT formula was taken from Ring of Honor, because that's what they were doing before. They were doing hour shows because they tape it for like 3 hours, but they split it up. And he could do that. That's one thing he could do. Like, just go back to those basics. Go back to what made Ring of Honor presentable. And I think the problem too is that it just gives me very like AEW dark vibe, where it's like a bunch of matches get thrown in, squash match, another match gets announced, boom, squash match. That's been the problem too.
And even seeing some of the matches that were on the show, I was just like, yeah, they didn't need to be on a pay-per-view. Like, I'm sorry, but it just didn't need to be. But we shall get to that. Keep coming with those comments in the live chat. We got Benny in the chat. Thanks for joining us, sir. He says, "Hey all, it did feel weird not having the show at the Hammerstein. It's always gonna feel weird that ROH doesn't come to Hammerstein." We got Power Driver Finisher who says, oddly enough, TK shows up personally on ROH more than AEW shows. He did on this pay-per-view. That's for damn sure. He was on this pay-per-view a lot. We have Frantic World who says, hopefully next year ROH will have a good team to run the brand. I am hoping so as well, Frantic World. But let's go through the 0 hour pre-show, shall we? Very quickly here. First match up, you had a women's match. Taya Valkyrie going one-on-one with Jasmine Allura. When you see those two names, you kind of can tell who's going to win this one. This was a quick like bonus match that was added on. The big thing that I got from this is I really like the act of Johnny TV and Taya Valkyrie. Of course, they're real life husband and wife, but they just have that nice. It gave me flashbacks to their act in Lucha Underground here, especially like their entrance coming out, and then Taya has a banger of a theme song. She gets the win with the curb stomp to Jasmine Allura, always a vicious finisher, and I like Taya Valkyrie being used here in Ring of Honor, where she will feel like a bigger star than she does in AEW. So what did you think about this one to start the show?
I mean, it wasn't bad. It did its job and went straight to the point. But I actually do agree. I do like the pairing of Johnny TV and Valkyrie. I mean, they are married, so I think that chemistry is pretty natural when it comes to them. They look presentable on TV too. Like it's not like Sammy and his wife, where it was like people just hated it. Yeah, but you could see like they have like natural chemistry. Maybe that's why they got married. But no, but I mean, straight to the point. Right. But I do agree with you with Valkyrie. I do agree with like that. It's a good spot for her because she will feel like a bigger star, and she might be in line for that new title that TK introduced later on in the show.
Yeah, she's been being used on Ring of Honor TV the last couple of weeks. She gets the win here. So, yeah, she could be one of the favorites to win that Ring of Honor TV championship for Women's TV championship. For anyone who's not aware, Tony Khan presented the championship during the Ring of Honor taping last night after AEW Collision. So, it's going to be a secondary women's championship in Ring of Honor. And it seems like this weekend or this week, Tony Khan just really loves women again. I'm glad. We'll talk about it more on Collision Discourse this week, but I was very happy with the uses of the women on AEW Collision. And then this show here had 3 women's matches, and that was the first one. But next match on the 0 hour pre-show was a tag team match, as my favorite 70s tag team, the Outrunners, went against the Von Erichs, the young Ross and Marshall. We've had them on the YouTube channel, so glad to see them here get a shot. The Von Erichs in Dallas, it just makes sense. And I love the fact that they used the theme song, the OG Von Erichs theme song that is used in the movie. I love them using it here for their theme song in this matchup. The match, though, wasn't very good. I can't lie, but I mean, they got a good response to the fans. Von Erichs get the win with stereo claws, and Kevin Von Erich was there to raise their hand. What did you think?
Pretty much the same. I mean, I do like the Von Erichs.
Me too.
I do think they're a good tag team. Better than I kind of expected to be. Like, when you hear about second, third generation talents. Usually, if they're not Orton or like, certain other people, usually doesn't really pan out for them. But they've been pretty good. I think them as a tag team, I think it's a good thing for them, because I just don't think them separate, they wouldn't be stars. So I think them being together makes sense.
I feel it's weird because I feel like I think it's Ross. Ross is the one with the black hair. I think Ross is the better worker, but Marshall has a better look to him.
Yeah. And
but he's still kind of green, but he has a great look. Like he has that Von Erich, Kerry Von Erich type look to him that he can be a single star.
Yeah, and but I think that's part of the reason why they work well. Like they're being a good tag team. It's a good thing for them because one has more strengths than the other. So on that aspect, it makes sense. I mean, it's been cool seeing Kevin Von Erich. He looks healthy. He looks great. I think that's what it really was. I think it was just more of a plug of just presenting them again, because I think they did show up. Where was it? Somewhere else that they showed up, right?
They did the little interview on Dynamite this week, and then they had a 6-man tag on Rampage with Orange Cassidy.
Oh yeah, that's where he showed up at, right? I think he did the call to
Jake Hager. Yeah,
he did it to Hager. So I mean, they've been it's been good to see them. Like I think that's where it just more sits for me. It's like match wasn't very good, but it was cool to see them. And
I think it's just cool to see Kevin Von Erich get some happiness from wrestling after the life he's lived.
Yeah, and he looks like he's enjoying himself. I like that. I like that. And then maybe his boys end up getting signed. Who knows?
They'd be like the type of talent that you kind of want to get to kind of develop, and especially now with the Iron Claw movie about to drop, you can capitalize on that and get some people some eyes over there if it pops off and a lot of people like the movie and it does success in the box office. But the next matchup, the third match on the 0 hour, was a qualifying match for survival of the fittest. You had the bounty hunter Brian Keith going one-on-one with Jack Cartwell. And can I just say, Tony Khan, you deserve a Medal of Honor, a badge of honor. This man licensed, still tipping by Mike Jones. Who? Mike Jones. I'm sorry. I put my TV up to like 100. Tipping on fofos, tipping on fofos. I was like, yo, we really doing this? I was like, okay, this is because it's a pay-per-view. And then he had it again on Collision. I was like, oh man, Tony licensed it to fit it on Turner. Oh shit. Brian Keith getting the win in his home state of Texas, getting the win with a nice little Tiger Driver 97. Pretty good matchup here. These two guys know each other from the independent scene. This match only went 7 minutes, 4 seconds, but it was a good 7 minutes while we got it. Brian Keith, I feel after this weekend, he deserves to get signed and be one of the guys that you kind of are, the young guys that are on the rise in Ring of Honor. I would love to see that roll for him.
Yeah, same. I'm familiar with his work. He's done a lot of work in the tri-state. So seeing him was pretty cool. But then it was even like more random, just him coming out to Mike Jones. That was just like, what the hell? I think
still tipping! Yeah, tipping on poles.
I think from what I know, I think he was using that theme on the Independence.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So he used it. So he just decided to keep it, and props to CK for doing that instead of giving something super generic.
Man, Mike Jones got a payday, yo. You know when when was the last time Mike Jones got a payday?
Maybe Boost Mobile. I don't know.
when the Sidekick 2 came out, like maybe. I don't know. I haven't heard Mike Jones. As soon as the beat dropped, I was hyped. I was like, oh, we did it. Because I know Brian Keefe comes out to that, and I saw multiple people who were going to Final Battle was like, "Oh, I might lose it if he plays Still Tipping," and I'm like, oh, "Yeah, I mean, Tony has played guys' independent songs before, but Nick Gage didn't come out to the Hail the King, his theme song, when he was on AEW television, so I wasn't expecting it for Brian Keefe, and prior appearances by Brian Keefe, he didn't even get an entrance, so I love the fact he did this here."
Yeah, and I think probably too it was probably a lot easier getting his rights to the music. It's probably a lot easier. I think that was part of it too. But I mean, it's still cool, and it kind of shows I don't want to, usually we try not to put too much stock into like, oh yeah, they gave him this theme, but that's pretty significant if you think about it. Like if you decided to keep your theme and the boss is behind it, I mean that's pretty cool.
I want to see Tony Khan dancing backstage to Many Men when the Guns came out to that in that matchup against FTR, and then him dancing backstage at Final Battle to Still Tipping. Imagine Tony Khan like tipping on 4-4. Tell me how this dance like.
That sure would have been funny. You would have had Mike Jones and Lil Flip in the crowd. That would have been funny.
Paul Wall in the crowd. You're sipping on my tempo. Oh, we got at this point. Speaking of which, the culture vulture himself, Tony Khan, came out at this point to talk about his history in the area as well as Jay Briscoe's legacy at Final Battle, and he said that we had one more bonus match to enjoy, and he brought out "Let Me Think About You," another banger theme song. Daniel Garcia coming out to a good pop from the Texas crowd, doing the dance as he went one-on-one with Blake Christian, who I thought that Blake Christian had stopped working with Ring of Honor because the dude never shows up on Ring of Honor TV. Anytime I see him, it's usually in GCW, and I like the fact that in this matchup, I think that he read the crowd and felt the crowd was more on Daniel Garcia's side. So we saw more of the Blake Christian that we usually see in Game Changer Wrestling than we see in Ring of Honor here in this one, where he played a little bit of heel. But eventually it was Daniel Garcia who Christian hit him with a 450 splash that got him a 2 count, but Garcia was able to pull him in to the Dragon Tamer and then go back, holding on to his neck that was worked over throughout the matchup to pick up the victory in this one. Daniel Garcia getting a huge win, as he has not been very successful in the Continental Classic at 0-3 at that point, but a very good matchup here with Blake Christian. I gave this one 3.5 stars. I gave Brian Keefe and Jack Cartwell 3.25. This one, 3.5 stars. The best match on the pre-show so far. What did you think about this one between Christian and Garcia?
It was pretty solid. I really liked the match. I am not a fan of Garcia's as a sharpshooter, to be honest with you. I'm not a fan of it, but it works. I think this is more of a niche, from at least to me. I think they're gonna turn Garcia face soon. Like, to me, that's where it comes off at. They've
told a great underdog story with him in the Continental Classic so far, so it kind of begs for people to kind of be sympathetic about him. And he has the big final matchup with Brody King, which is the ultimate kind of him being the underdog babyface versus the monster heel.
Yeah, and then also, I think part of it too is like you're starting to hear that more too about the entertainer versus the wrestler aspect of, Garcia came in as a wrestler, then he became an entertainer, and then he's been losing a lot as the entertainer. So there's something there. And I think once he transitions back to being like a wrestler, I think that's where he's going to go face.
I think so too. We got Vala B says, I think Danny is beating Brody King. I think so too. I think the final week you get Danny beating Brody King. I think Brian beats Claudio and Kingston beats Andrade for Kingston versus Brian in the group final. That's what I think the final week is going to go like in the Blue League. But I like the fact that the Blue League has a 5-way tie with everyone but Danny going into the final week. We got next up, we started the main card with Elio del Vikingo going one-on-one with Black Taurus. This was your AAA Arena Mexico high-flying showcase. We get Super Hurricane Radas off the top. We get a strike contest between the two guys. You get Vikingo with a not so great looking running sunset flip powerbomb. You get Taurus, who is just the ultimate base for these high flyers, and he just flings them up in the air and hits ridiculous power moves like a ripcord power slam at one point. A clothesline of Vikingo over the top rope. Then he hit a rather large flip dive to the outside, a reverse sling blade inside the ring, almost got him a 2 count. At one point, he hit a top rope gorilla press slam that planted Vikingo. Vikingo eventually fights back. He hits a big moonsault Samoan driver, but Taurus spears him for a double knockdown. Then Taurus is outside, and Vikingo hits a 7-20. Then he follows up with a Taurus comes back with a hell of a backbreaker, but Vikingo finally fights back, gets him into the corner after a poison rana, hits the double knees and the 630 to retain the AAA Mega Champion. This one was, at times, it was a little bit clunky, but my lord, were they moving at 1,000 miles per hour? And this made for a heck of an opener to kick off the show. The great match between these two, 4 stars for me. What did you think about Vikingo versus Taurus?
Really good. I do agree with the clunky comment because it did come off that way, but that usually happens. With Vikingo, I think he tries to fill out what he's going to do from the start. And then once he gets going. And I feel like that's what really happened. Match just started going. Taurus is really good. I think he's really underrated, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just because he works well with any style. Like, it could be a big man. It could be somebody small. It could be a cruiserweight. He works really well with anybody.
But he does extremely well with those luchadors because he's the ultimate base for them. And I've seen better matches with these two. Like the 3-way they had during WrestleMania weekend was awesome for WrestleCon Super Show. But this one was, it's a like Valabi said, it's a Vikingo match. He does get clunky at times. Yeah, it is. It is what it is with Vikingo being clunky. The only match I didn't see him clunky was the Omega match, the first one on Dynamite.
Yeah,
he was on the money for everything in that match.
Yeah, and then also, he's also still young. He's still young in the business compared to other luchadors. So I think it's one of those things where he's gonna get better at. He's gonna get better with stuff like that. He's probably gonna realize, hey, I might need to calm down a lot of stuff that I do now. If he hasn't already. But yeah,
might need to slow it down young. Just a little bit. Just a little.
Yeah, because he does get injured a lot too. But granted, doesn't keep him out a lot. It doesn't keep him out a lot, but you never know. Yeah. So,
you gotta. And as you get older, a lot of these wrists and his style will not hold up. The body will not hold up to that type of pressure that you're putting on it, sir. So some good advice there. Next up, it's something different. I like the fact that pretty much every single match was something different on this show, because you got the high flying lucha libre type matchup in the opener. Then you had more of a kind of a bruisers meet techers / bruisers in this next match, as you had the 6-man tag team titles up for grabs. The Mogul Embassy, Brian Cage, and the Gates of Agony defending against TMDK, represented by Shane Hayes, Bad Dude Tito, and Kosei Fujita. Fujita was putting in work in this matchup. He was constantly involved in the matchup, kind of getting battered by the different opponents from the Mogul Embassy. Meanwhile, you had the best hot tag in this matchup was Bad Dude Tito, who just went crazy with tornado DDTs, dives to the outside. However, Fujita got caught up by the big men in the ring, who triple teamed him. We get running shots in the corner to set up the toss sit out slam for Cage to get the victory. This match going 12 minutes, 1 second. I thought this was a good matchup to follow up from the last one. I gave it 3.5 stars. What did you think about this one?
It wasn't bad. I do like the Mobile Embassy together. They do like some great things together. It was a good spot for them. Both teams worked well together. So I mean, that's all you can really ask for when it comes to that. Because I mean, they were gonna retain. I didn't see them losing in this match.
No, once it was TMDK and not United Empire as the challengers, I was like, yeah, there's no chance they're gonna win this one. Sorry. And I saw it was a different combination of TMDK with the Young Lion obviously there to take the fall. Like I was like, Fujita, they just brought you all across this land, all from Japan, just to take this L. But hey, man, he graduated himself from the dojo. He about to learn today. There you go. But yeah, good match right here between all 6 guys. We got Frantic World, who says, I like that they continued the story from New Japan and had the match on the pay-per-view. Yeah, this was following up from TMDK defeating Gates of Agony in the World Tag League. So that was a nice way of the 2 promotions working together to help out the Ring of Honor pay-per-view. Next, we had the matchup that I talked about before that was actually very well built to on this show. You had Tony Nese going one-on-one with Ethan Page in an I Quit match. Page was on a winning streak, but then Nese and his friends cut it off and then got on Page's nerves after cheating to win. Now it's time for an I Quit match because Tony Nese said that Ethan Page has always quit and quits on his friends and stuff like that. A battle of former friends here. And this one, it was like part kind of like a blow off to like a comedy feud with like weights and ropes being used, and then it felt like a blow up to like a blood feud at the same time. It was weird. You get the big moments like Ethan Page doing a nice little springboard cutter to the outside through a table on Tony Nese to the floor. You had Smart Mark Sterling getting involved at various times despite being handcuffed to the ring post. You had Mark Henry come out at the start of this matchup to make sure Smart Mark was handcuffed, but he was eventually unloosened by basically uncuffed by Tony Nese when he got the key from the ring announcer. As they were jumping Ethan Page, it looked like all hope was lost when Scorpio Sky makes his return, reuniting Men of the Year, taking out Smart Mark Sterling. It comes down to Page and Tony Nese. Tony Nese handcuffs Page's arms behind his back, but Ethan Page continues to fight back. Eventually, the ref uncuffs his hands from behind his back, but he uses the cuffs to basically tie Tony Nese up in a STF with the cuffs around his throat. So Tony Nese has to say, I quit, to pick up the victory here for Ethan Page. Ethan Page picking up the biggest win of his run so far in Ring of Honor, reuniting Men of the Year. And it's a nice little act to have in Ring of Honor. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw in 2024 Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky become Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions. What did you think about this one? I gave the match 3 3/4 stars. I thought it was a very good match.
Yeah, same. I really liked the match. It was a lot of like funny stuff, which I kind of expect with Ethan Page. Usually he likes doing certain stuff like that. And then Tony Nese didn't know he had that in him. It was really good. It did really feel like a real feud. That's what I liked about it. Yeah. It really felt like something real. And then having Scorpion come out, it was cool to see just because I thought Men of the Year, I just thought they could have gone places. There are times where they kind of, I want to say booking, but like the way they were being used kind of suffered because they were with Dan Lambert, and I felt like they showcased more of the MMA fighters more. I felt like that was heavily too much on what it should have been. It should have been Dan Lambert more with Men of the Year. I thought that would have been better. Yeah. But it's cool to see them back together. And it's a good thing. I think Scorpio Sky needs this more than Ethan, because I think Ethan has shown he could carry this. He could be a singles competitor. People will get behind him. The problem with Scorpio Sky is not so much he's a bad wrestler. It's just the crowd doesn't get behind him. As much as people want Scorpio to get a big push, and we've been saying that, however, when the crowd is not behind you, you're kind of dead in the water. and that's happened to Scorpio Sky a few times.
Because they never pulled the trigger when they're supposed to with Scorpio Tide. The time to pull the trigger for him was back when he was on that winning streak and he versed Cody for the TNT championship. And since that time, every time they've tried after, it just hasn't worked. It hasn't connected that well. And then they did the Sammy feud, which left him dead in the water.
Yeah, and it was just even when he came back, people were just like, "Well, okay, Scorpio's back, cool." That's how I took it. And usually, when the crowd is not behind you, they see that. And unfortunately, he's suffered from that. But I mean, it was a good crowd reaction seeing them back together. And again, I think Ethan and Scorpio, they worked so well together. Not even in ring, but like even outside the promos, they just have natural chemistry that. I don't know what Ethan does, but it brings out the best out of Scorpio when it comes to those promos, those segments. Even though Scorpio, we've seen it before with NCU, like he's very good when it comes to that reading. He bounces off of other people. Like if you pair him with somebody, he's very good. And I think that them being back together, I think that's a good thing.
Very, very true. Next up, we had a second women's matchup. First one on the main card here. Nyla Rose going one-on-one with Vixen. Another bonus match. Nyla started off fast, loaded up for the Beast Bomb in less than a minute, but Vixen punched her way free. Another hard shot, though, by Nyla, put her down. She pulled her back up, top rope knee to the back, and then she followed up with the Beast Bomb to pick up the victory in 2 minutes 39 seconds. This could have been a Ring of Honor TV match.
You know, it's funny when you mentioned that earlier. This was like the main match I thought about.
We love Nyla here. We love Vert Vixen. We would love for them to have a real match. Like that would have been nice if you're going to be put on the pay-per-view.
Yeah, I think that's the only downside of it. Like we did get a few women's matches on the card. I mean, that's a good thing. It's just, I mean, it was cool to see Nyla. I haven't seen her in a while, so I mean, it was cool to see her in the ring again. And I think this is a good spot too. Ring of Honor, I think it's a good spot. It's a good spot for her.
Yeah, this is another person who, if you're not going to use her in AEW, then this is a better spot where she's a former AEW Women's World Champion. She's a big monster heel that other baby faces can try to take down. And with the addition of Taya Valkyrie and Nyla Rose, it felt that's what made me like. I already had voted in our prediction championship that Billie Starkz was going to win the main event, but after seeing Taya Valkyrie and Nyla Rose win, I'm like, oh, they seem to be setting up new opponents for Athena. Oh, shit. I might be wrong here. That's what I felt after seeing those two matches, those two results. I was like, yeah, they seem like they are building new challengers for Athena than a new women's division for Billie Starkz as champion. So, that was the only downside for me. Recap of the TV title race with everything that has happened since Samoa Joe relinquished the championship back on the November 29th edition. November 22nd edition of November 15th, excuse me. November 15th edition of AEW Dynamite, which has led to the survival of the fittest matchup. You have Lee Moriarty, Dalton Castle, Kyle Fletcher, Lee Johnson, Brian Keefe, and Commander. This matchup's layout was the best of the night. Just how they laid this match out, where it started off where you thought it was only going to be two in the ring, and then everybody else on the outside, like Survival of the Fittest has gone in the past. But then they immediately just threw that out the window, and people started coming in. We get Johnson and Moriarty. They fight it out for a bit. Johnson clears house. The first stage of this matchup is all about Dalton Castle being spurned by everybody. He tries to run at everybody and then gets thrown out the ring. Runs at one person, gets thrown out the ring. Runs at another person, gets thrown out the ring. Finally, he gets Kyle Fletcher. Kyle Fletcher's about to throw him out the ring. He reverses. Kyle reverses. Dalton reverses. Kyle reverses. Dalton reverses. And then Dalton finally throws him out the ring. That was so well done. Put over Dalton Castle so well, despite him not winning this matchup. I thought that was well done. Then the next stage of this matchup was about putting over Lee Moriarty. He eliminates Lee Johnson with the Border City stretch at the 8-minute mark. That's the first elimination. Then a couple of minutes later, he capitalizes on the fact that Johnny TV comes out to attack the boys, distracting Dalton Castle. So he gets the win on him with a suplex downward spiral. So back-to-back eliminations for Liam Moriarty. Make him look strong because he's about to lose, y'all. Brian Keith eliminates him, hitting his big Tiger Driver to eliminate Lee Moriarty. So then it was down to Fletcher, Keith, and Commander. So you put over Brian Keith, who had the win earlier and gets the win here. Then he has a competitive back and forth with Kyle Fletcher, ending with Fletcher putting him away with a tombstone. Then we get Fletcher and Commander, who just went the fuck off, Josh, for like 10 minutes. 10 minutes of a full-on mini-match between these two with 450 splashes on the apron to Kyle Fletcher at one point. We get a tombstone on the apron. We get a slingshot Hurricane Rana to the floor, which is countered into a jumping tombstone. You get Commander with like a springboard Canadian destroyer for a close near fall at another point. He gets the 450 in the ring for a near fall, but eventually Kyle Fletcher puts him away with the jumping tombstone power driver to become the new Ring of Honor World Television Champion. This is how you book a new champion, because I was so about Joe relinquishing the title and making a new champion here, especially with the field that was at play, where none of those guys that I mentioned like jumped off the page as the obvious favorite to win this one. But I thought that Kyle Fletcher was the right choice in here. He's been getting a push since joining up with the Don Callis family. This confirms that he's now a single star, winning his first singles championship. And in 1 year, he's won the Ring of Honor World Tag Team titles, the IWGP Tag Team Championships, the NJPW Strong Openweight Tag Team Championships, and now the Ring of Honor World Television Championship. I absolutely love this matchup. I gave it 4.25 stars. What did you think?
I thought it was great. I agree with the layout. Basically, they just went fuck it. Everybody just like went in. I felt like the right person won. This one I really didn't know who would win. But I do feel like they went with the right person. To me, only confirms one, like you said, that Fletcher's it's gonna have a singles run, and then two, I think his tag partner is out longer than they probably expected.
Probably.
I mean, Fletcher has been really good. He's been a really good singles wrestler, and I think they've been more confident with him in that position, because even when they got signed, he was doing some singles matches. So it's a good thing for him that he's still working, because usually sometimes with tag teams, if one partner gets hurt and they feel like you lack in something, they're not going to use you. That's just what it is. You're basically a pair. Somebody's out for 6 months, that means you're out for 6 months. And for Fletcher, I mean, but even if you think about it, with TK in general, I think he's had confidence with a lot of wrestlers like that, because we saw with Dante Martin, his brother got hurt multiple times, and it happened. So when it comes to that,
I think they're doing a good job with keeping Kyle Fletcher busy while Mark Davis is out, and then they basically set him up where he's now a champion in Ring of Honor and one of the guys they can build the brand around. So that's also helpful to him, and you still know that he's going to be probably on AEW TV, especially after Rampage this week, where Don Callis said they're now going to be going by Don Callis family rules, which means any two members of the Don Callis family can compete in tag team competition.
Also, now they have rules too. So first House Black rules, and now they have
House rules, and now Don Callis family rules. Yeah, and yes, he's only 24. This was a great example of the youth that Tony Khan has, at play for him. When you got Lee Moriarty at like 29, was like the oldest guy in this matchup. Well, outside of Dalton Castle, who's in his 30s.
Yep. I mean, it's good for Fletcher. I mean, he's won a lot of titles this year. he won Sky Blue. I mean, hey, the guy's winning, I guess.
Hey, he won.
Right.
He won already. You could have stopped that Sky Blue. We got next up the Ring of Honor Pure Championship up for grabs as Wheeler Yuta went one-on-one defending against Filthy Tom Lawler, making his Ring of Honor debut. Filthy Tom. This was more, and I like the fact, once again, this is where I saw the juxtaposition in matches, where you had this crazy multi-man action-packed matchup in the survival of the fittest, and then you get a more technical thinking man's wrestling game in the next matchup with Wheeler Yuta and Tom Lawler. Very technical place, very about kind of using strategy, because you had Wheeler Yuta early on trying to make Tom Lawler use the ropes and get rid of his rope breaks, but it was eventually Yuta who would run out of rope breaks in this one. He would use the rules in different ways, like landing a punch behind the referee's back so Tom Lawler would hit him with one and receive a warning. And then later on in the matchup, he used the closed fist and got caught with it, but he should have got a DQ or a rope break taken away, but he just took advantage of the rules in that part. You get him reversing. Tom Lawler went after the arm a lot of times, even getting like a disarmer at one point. Yuta would go after the leg. He got a ankle lock at another point, which was reversed into a Kimura. That was escaped out of, and Yuta eventually gets the seatbelt pin, despite Lawler's foot being on the ropes, to retain the Ring of Honor Pure Championship. After the match, Wheeler Yuta low blows Tom Lawler and attacks him. This brings out FTW champion Hook. It looks like Yuta is bailing out, not wanting to get involved with Hook before he sneaks back in and low blows Hook to stand tall. Wheeler Yuta, that dickhead, that little fucking dickhead. Really good matchup here. I give it 3.5 stars. What did you think?
It was a really good matchup. I actually liked how Yuta bended the rules being a heel when it comes to these kind of matches. I thought that was a really nice touch. I actually like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just because I think when it comes to pure matches, I think a lot of people don't like it because there's like certain rules that are like, oh, this is not wrestling or whatever the case may be. But I think it's the opposite. I think it shows something different. It's something, again, it's called pure for a reason. So there's certain things you could do, certain limits, you could do certain things. And I think that's a good touch on it. I've always been a fan of that, me personally. So for him to break the rules and in the ways that he was doing it, I actually like that. And then also, it still made Lawler look strong just because of how the match finished. So it doesn't really hurt him either way, too. It looks like they might run it back maybe sometime in the future. But, everybody did their part in this. Yuta does do good heel tactics. The only thing I just don't like with Yuta is when he talks, because his voice doesn't match his body. That's about it. But
he has a very nasally voice as well. Like, it's weird. It's a weird. So once again, I'm going to talk about the juxtaposition of this crowd. This card has a smorgasbord of wrestling because you get the action-packed survival of the fittest. You get a technical wrestling bout with Wheeler Yuta and Tom Lawler, and then you follow that up with big, meaty men slapping meat. You get Keith Lee versus Shane Taylor, former friends, now bitter enemies. I like how this was now kind of laid out in kind of stages where they kind of felt each other out. We get the headlocks and test of strength. We get a heck of a shoulder block displayed by both men. You got both men kind of picking up the speed, showing that they can kind of turn on the jets when they can. And then they just started going nuts towards the end of this matchup, especially Shane Taylor pulling out a sit out power bomb off the top rope, a avalanche code red, basically, changed into a Canadian destroyer. That was crazy, but eventually it was Keith Lee almost immediately after taking that crazy move as well. He grabs him, picks him up, his Big Bang catastrophe, and gets the fuck up out of there. He's like, I gotta go before you beat me here. This was a good all-hoss fight, some very heavy shots, and a little bit of the high impact moves, where these two guys do moves that should not be done by guys of their size and should not be done to guys of their size, but very impressive from both men. After the matchup on an online digital exclusive on AEW and Ring of Honor social media, Keith Lee had an interview with Lexi Nair, where Lexi Nair asked him, now that him has been defeated, Shane Taylor, what's next for Keith Lee? Keith Lee says him and Shane Taylor's business is over, but Shane Taylor is not him. And then we would find out on Collision this week that when he approached Prince Nana and the rest of Mogul Embassy to tell him that he is coming and his time is running out. So the Chronic 2 is finally dropping in 2024. Sir Strickland and Keith Lee finally have a singles match in AEW.
That's gonna be fun. That could really be a nice build up to what Revolution, I would say.
Either Revolution, or if they don't add another pay-per-view, because they said they were going to 12 a month in 2024.
That'd be pretty close to, like, I don't know.
Yeah, you would just be announcing it now. Like, it's really late in the game, like a month out to announce a new pay-per-view for January. I hope the first pay-per-view of the year is Revolution.
And it kind of, to be honest, it looks like it's structured that way just because December you have the end of December, and then you don't have one until March. It kind of makes me feel like they might add one, but that'd be like towards the end of January or the beginning. I can see February.
Maybe like beginning of February. That I think that's the latest you could push it, where it's not over making it too close to Revolution, because Revolution's at the start of March.
Yeah. I mean, I would just stick with Revolution just because, like, they've been saying that road to Revolution, and Will Ospreay also teased that himself. So I think they should just focus on that. But I mean, anything can happen. But I think that'd be a fun matchup on Revolution. I think Swerve has garnered a big name at this point of his career and in his AEW run, that he's gonna just get pay-per-view matches of his big feuds, and that's a great thing. Very true.
We got Vala B, who says they could still do it at World's End. If Swerve doesn't make the finals, then he's free for the pay-per-view. No,
but I think he has to make the finals. Yeah, he has to be like the person. Yeah.
Don't put that in. Don't put that in the earth, Vala B. Don't say that out loud. Okay, we're gonna delete your comment from our memories. All right,
but also I think Lee and Swerve, they kind of are deserving of a bigger build, because remember, Swerve is still in the Classic, so it's not like you're gonna have.
I would like to see them do, like, Keith Lee has to go through Mogul Embassy to get to Swerve in the build up. Like, he has to have a match with Toa Leona, Bishop Khan, and then Brian Cage before he gets to Swerve.
Yep, and then also if Swerve wins those belts, you have something on the line for that. So that'd be fun. Regardless, like, if he don't need the titles, but it adds something to that.
That is true. It does add a little oomph, a little stakes involved. We got Power Driver Finisher. He says, I'd show zero metal and do 4 pay-per-views this final month of the year and overprice the hell out of them. I mean, we got this one for $10 though. So
oh, it was only $10?
It was on Honor Club, yeah.
Oh, you see, I didn't even know that.
We next up backstage, we get Brian Keefe. He wants some gold while he's in Texas, so Orange Cassidy steps up to him and said he has some gold and challenges him for the international title on Collision. Talk about that on Collision Discourse. But up next was the big tribute match to Jay Briscoe. Them top guys, Mark Briscoe, FTR versus the Blackpool Combat Club's Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley, and Claudio Castagnoli. This one broke down and was into like a regular trios matchup that built and built and built, had some great story beats, like Mark Briscoe trying to prove himself, trying to get the win in this one desperately to pay tribute to his brother. You had FTR trying to set him up, some nice three-way offense between both teams. I liked at one point BCC BCC, trying to kind of isolate Mark Briscoe, kind of point him out as the weaker link, but he had to keep on fighting back. The match goes completely out of control when the Blackpool Combat Club tries to go for their own doomsday device, paying tribute to Jay Briscoe or disrespect, depending on who you ask. This leads to a huge brawl on the outside, going up to into the crowd. It leads to a double count out at the 19-minute mark, but Mark Briscoe is not having any of this shit. He says, Paul Turner, you must have bumped your fucking head. We ain't doing that on this matchup. He's like, let's make it a straight fight. And it's announced that it's a fight without honor, and then it just gets turned up to 10. We get barbed wire ladders. We get a table full with thumbtacks and glass. We get steel chairs galore, and it's just everyone's bleeding at certain points. Dax Harwood with a huge gash down his eye. John Moxley, of course, is bleeding. If anyone's going to bleed, it's going to be John Moxley. Mark Briscoe with a great crimson mask. Then we get the final stage of this matchup as it's Mark Briscoe and Bryan Danielson in the ring after Mark has survived pretty much everything, survived the Bulldog choke by John Moxley with Dax coming in to make the save. You get Cash Wheeler and Claudio on the outside, where Cash Wheeler spears Claudio through a table bridged up against the guardrail. Then you get Dax Harwood and John Moxley fighting on the apron, where Dax Harwood delivers a sick looking power driver off the apron through a table filled with glass and thumbtacks. Then you get Mark Briscoe in the ring with Bryan Danielson. Bryan Danielson goes for the Basico knee. Mark Briscoe moves out the way. He hits the J Driller on a pile of steel chairs to pick up the victory for his team. 31 minutes, 15 seconds. This was utter batshit insanity. Violent, bloody, intense, emotional, dramatic. I absolutely love this. This was a heck of a fight. A great way to pay tribute to Jay Briscoe. So much heart in this matchup. I have to give it 4 3/4 stars. This was a spectacular matchup to pay tribute to the GOAT of Ring of Honor, in my opinion, Jay Briscoe. Josh, what did you think about this one?
It was great. Super violent. I also like the aspect of Mark stepping up, saying like, "Nah, this is not how we're gonna finish this. Let's make this a street fight." And then it just got amped up after that. I thought that was a great way to do it. I thought it would have been a fun matchup even if you don't have none of that stuff. But this definitely elevated, like all the violence and all the stuff they used, definitely elevated it. It needed to be. And it was a great match. I mean, I felt like the right team won just because of it's a tribute match. Doesn't really mean it counts for anything. It means more to like just a memory. So even if BCC taking the L doesn't hurt them in any way. It's just more of like, hey, let's just ball out. Let's just honor Jay, and that's what they did. So it was fun.
Yeah, and Valabi says I was really surprised that it was Danielson who took the pin. I knew it was going to be Danielson who took the pin because I was like, it's not going to be Moxley, who's undefeated in the Continental Classic. Claudio's already took a big loss to Brody King and Eddie Kingston. He can't really afford a loss, and he doesn't really lose in Ring of Honor in general. He even lost the Ring of Honor World Championship on an AEW show. He never loses in Ring of Honor. So it just made sense for it to be Danielson because he was the guy they were making a big deal of making this matchup because this was his first time back in Ring of Honor in 15 years. His first time on an ROH Final Battle event since he beat Takeshi Morishima in Hammerstein Ballroom back in 2008. And that's why in the prediction championship when Bromeo asks who you think is going to get pinned, I put Danielson. I was like, yeah, Danielson seems like he's going to be the one. It's a tribute match. Danielson will job and put over anyone. Just makes sense.
Yeah.
We got
that's a good that's a good take. No, I'm saying that's a good take. I would assume I would have thought it would have been Claudio, but what you said makes sense. So Claudio already has taken big losses in the tournament, so I think it probably would have done more damage than Danielson is still selling that injury too. So
and plus, if Claudio takes the loss, he would then be defined as number 3 of the 3. Because like they have done a good job of making them all three of those guys feel like they're on equal ground, and Brian is basically Teflon at this point, and John Moxley, they just very rarely ever have him lose, if at all. And then Claudio, he doesn't need to take the loss because he doesn't need to. People generally like him least out of the three of them, so you don't need another reason to make him number 3.
That's good. That's a good take.
We got Frantic World that says this fight without honor was crazy, and rest in peace, Jay Briscoe. Yes, 100%. Rest in peace, Jay Briscoe, but they paid tribute to you very well in this matchup. Then you had on the pre-show before the main card started, you had Tony Khan doing an interview. Then Eddie Kingston came in to be like, yo, it's a Ring of Honor pay-per-view. How am I Ring of Honor champion? I'm not on the damn pay-per-view. I want to fight. He's like, you got a big matchup tomorrow night against Daniel Garcia, who literally just had a match. So I was like, Eddie, yeah, that's no reason to not give Eddie a match. So Anthony Henry comes in, and a proving ground matchup was made where there's a 10-minute time limit. If Henry can win or survive the time limit, he gets a future shot at the North American Triple Crown Championship that is being decided in the Continental Classic. Not gonna fret over this too long. 5 minutes, 42 seconds. Eddie Kingston picks up the win with the stretch plum. This was after he hit a nice little spinning back fist. Eddie Kingston picking up a win before he faces Daniel Garcia in his 4th match of the Continental Classic. It was just fine. What did you think?
Same thing.
TV match. It's a TV match.
Yeah, and it was just, again, like the last minute throw in. It was like, card was fine enough already. Like, if that's what you were gonna go with, just stick with that. Because Kingston is in the tournament, so that necessarily didn't need a world title match in the card. It wasn't promoted, it wasn't there already, so really didn't need it. But I mean, it is what it is. Gets Eddie a win.
Nah. That's what it's all about. Getting Eddie a win. Eddie Kingston has been winning a lot in 2023. We should all be thankful for that. And then finally, it was the main event time, guys. Final call for super chat donations. We've been talking about this show for an hour plus. Send us some love with a super chat donation. Every little bit matters. It counts, and it goes back to our contributors. And like Jimmy McElroy always said, nigga, we broke. We appreciate the support. Main event time, Ring of Honor Women's World Championship up for grabs. Athena defending against her former minion, Billie Starkz. Athena coming out in a Bane outfit. I love the Athena pay-per-view outfits, which is always top-notch, and it was here. Billie Starkz and Athena had what I would like as an epic feel, where it started off and it told the story of the buildup of Billie Starkz being this kind of plucky underdog babyface, wet behind the ears, very young, only 18 years old, not really having the aggression or the intensity that Athena has. But as Athena was beating her down, Billie would not quit. She kept fighting from underneath, and eventually we saw some of that bully Starkz that Athena has brought out of her, and started fighting back, fighting dirty at some points, even getting very aggressive right in front of the referee. You get Starkz with a big suplex down to the floor at one point. A fireman's carry is escaped. Starkz pulls her down by the hair. They fight onto the barricade again, and it's a reverse sling blade that sends Billie Starkz face first into the ground. You got Athena, who tries something different, goes to the top rope, hits a sick looking cross raft, the electric chair into the German, a top rope German suplex to Billie Starkz, only gets a 2 count. At this point, Athena is desperate. She calls on the special guest ring announcer and head minion, Lexi Nair, to hand her the title. Lexi is hesitant, which leads to Billie Starkz drop kicking Athena into Nair, into the title belt. Then she hits Stark's end. 1, 2, kick out, back up again. They fight to the apron where Starkz hits a big electric chair driver. Athena is knocked out on the floor. Starkz puts her in the ring, goes for a swanton bomb, but she misses. Athena punches her in the face for a double down. Athena wins a slugfest between the two, then hits despicable knee, but Billie Starkz kicks out again. They trade roll-ups for 2 counts. Then Athena ties her up in a modified octopus hold to get the submission victory. 28 minutes, 21 seconds. Like I said, this felt like an epic feeling main event, heavyweight title bout. Both women putting it all on the line. Billie Starkz, 18 years old. She deserves all the credit in the world, and I would not be surprised by the time Billie Starkz is legally able to drink, she will be the best female wrestler in the world. If she's this good when she's 18 and puts on a hell of a great main event matchup with one of the best women's wrestlers in the world and goes hold for hold, toe for toe with her, she's going to be so great in just a few years. After the matchup, you get an emotional moment. Billie Starkz tries to leave, but Athena pulls her back to stay. She's asking, "What do you want from me? What do you want from me?" She tries to show her respect and give us a handshake. Athena refuses. Athena then puts her hand up and says, "Be my minion again." And Billie Starkz gives her a high five, hugs her minion overlord, and Lexi Nair comes into the ring. So MIT reunites to end the show on a high with Athena still Ring of Honor Women's World Champion. I gave the match 4.25 stars. These two women left it all out in the ring. I think it's by far Billie Stark's best match that I've seen her in. And Athena, this just caps off what I think is the best women's wrestler of the year. Sorry, Rhea Ripley. You're our only competition, and it's literally because you're in segments with men, not because of what you're doing in the ring. Both as a character, promo, in the ring, Athena has lapped a Rhea Ripley. She is the wrestler of the year. Josh?
It's funny that you say that because I was going to say something similar. She's by far had like the best year of her career, in my opinion. Not even just a year, like when you compare it to all the women. This was a great matchup. Again, this was the match you had to use for the main event. It was deserving of the main event. It was the best build-up on the show. So, it was a good showcase for both of them. It still amazes me, though, that Billie Starkz is this young. I didn't know she was 18. I thought she was like 22, 23, maybe. But I found out she was 18. That's incredibly young. Like, especially in wrestling years, it's really young. And she was great. But besides that, but I do agree with all the Athena stuff. I think Rhea, again, she's on the bigger platform, which is understandable. She's on the bigger platform. But when you compare the title reigns, I don't think it's I don't think it's comparable. And to me, if your argument is, oh well, she's on WWE TV, and a lot of people don't watch Ring of Honor, then to me that's kind of a straw man argument, in my opinion. Just because it's like that has nothing to do with when you do these kind of awards, Women's Wrestler of the Year, Match of the Year. I think popularity is a small part of it, but you have to look at the bigger scope of everything. Like, what did they do within their title reign or within the year that makes them like the best in the year? To me, if you're just like in top segments and you're being presented in segments and promos, that's good for you, but that doesn't define you as a great wrestler, in my opinion, especially if your reign hasn't been that great. And that's how I kind of feel about Rhea. I mean, no disrespect to her. She's been showcased on a bigger platform, and she's been on these big segments. But when it comes down to it, when you really look at her reign, I mean, the best match she had easily was Charlotte, with Charlotte at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Besides that, you can't really pick out like, all right, what else did she do that was great in the ring?
I would argue she did not have another great match the rest of the year.
Yeah, it's true, and I agree with that because there was even a span where she had 4 matches, and I think the total was like 10 or 11 minutes. And to me, the difference is that I know there's people who are trying to defend that when it comes to, oh yeah, it made her look like a dominant champion. Like, no, none of those matches made her look dominant, and that was the problem. Like, you want your champion to look good. I think there's a difference between looking dominant, and I think you could do that once in a while. I think you could squash, but when you're constantly doing it, kind of diminishes your run. But then also, again, it wasn't presented that way. Like, if you're like the whole thing with Natalia, she'd be here in a minute. Nobody expected that to be in a minute, and it didn't make none of them look good. That was the problem.
Because it was Natalia.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'm saying, like, it didn't make them look good at all. And like, to me, that's the difference. It doesn't make Rhea look strong at all. It's like, all right, we just had a minute match. What do we go from here? Now, granted, their second match was better, but again, just doesn't. In comparing, if you really look on a bigger scope, nobody talks about it. No. Nobody talks about it. With Athena's, I think, arguably has been the best thing for Ring of Honor. And, the only thing that's criminal about her run is that you wish it was on a bigger scale. You wish more people would see it, because I do think it's her best run of her career.
Yeah, and when you look at the other Ring of Honor champions that have kind of held the titles for most of this year, Claudio, when he was Ring of Honor World Champion, featured on AEW very heavily at the same time. Eddie Kingston, since winning the Ring of Honor World Championship, still featured very heavily on AEW TV. Samoa Joe as TV champion, still featured very heavily on AEW TV. We could have gotten more opportunities to just see Athena during this legendary run that she's been having in 2023. She only had 3 appearances, 3 matches in AEW in 2023. That is fucking criminal.
Yeah. And that's why, to me, that basically it has nothing to do with her. She's doing her job. She's doing what, she's, and she's been a good soldier about it. So credit to her. She seems like she's doing well. She seems like she's having fun. But there's a part of me that I know she probably wants to be on the bigger stage. As in like AEW, because I think WWE she'll get lost again. Yeah. So I don't think that's a real option for her to go back. But again, we'll see what happens from here. I know TK has been more open of using her on AEW TV when the question got brought up. So
how you saying I'm open to it? Like, you not the one booking it, my dude. Yeah. Like what I'm open to it. You either want to do it or you don't. I'm open to it.
Yeah, and that's the only thing that I was like, you're gonna be about it, just do it. But then also, I think if you use her on AEW TV, I think this is a good way to do 2 women's matches on TV. When you do one women's match, present it as like her defending the title or whatever the case may be, have her have a match, and then like your 9:30 slot, have another women's match. I think that's how you could do it.
Fair. I got Chrissy says Billie Starkz should have won. We also got Power Driver Finisher who says, I saw what Billie was all about in this match. I was uncertain about her winning, thinking of the reign after, and also what they have for Athena after the ROH belt. I didn't feel it was Billie's time. Yeah, as I got closer to the matchup, it was very unpredictable to predict because the story kind of felt like you were going to make a new star in Billie Starkz, but at the same time, it still felt like there was still more for Athena to accomplish. And I like the fact that on commentary, and might I add, Ian Riccaboni and Caprice Coleman might be the best commentary team out there. They're just really fun, and you could genuinely feel that they like what they're calling and they like each other, which is very rare in wrestling nowadays. And they're very passionate about what they're watching. And I like that they put Athena's reign in rarefied air, saying that her women's title reign is on the same level of Bryan Danielson, Nigel McGuinness, and Samoa Joe's world title reigns. That said a lot.
Yeah, and people could say what they want. People could call him crazy for that, but I mean, numbers don't lie. her run, doesn't lie. She's been champion for over a year now, from what I know.
Yeah, she won it last year's final battle.
Yeah, so she's been champion for over a year. I mean, that's a great argument to have. I mean, again, just because people don't see it doesn't mean it's not happening.
Yeah. And it still feels like, to me, power driver finisher, not even just about Billie. It still feels like Willow should be the one to beat Athena. Because the Willow Athena matchup on Ring of Honor TV was the first one where I was like, oh, Athena. That was the first great match of a great year for Athena. It was that Willow match on Ring of Honor TV. Then she had good matches with like Sky Blue, had the great street fight with Kira Hogan, had the great match, the rematch with Mercedes Martinez, and then all this other stuff around, and then building off with the Willow matchup at Death Before Dishonor, and then this main event matchup. You can tell that Tony Khan trusts Athena to kind of be the face of this company right now. So love to see it. And I feel like Billie will have her moment. It just wasn't here.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't necessarily think it needs to happen right now. I think Friday, that was enough. At the moment, I think that was enough that you could see, hey, we have a star here. Let's keep building. Let's see where things go. So when it comes to Billie, you don't need to rush her. Again, she's 18 years old. You don't need to put the rocket on her back yet.
Yeah, and I felt a lot better about this loss than I did about Willow. When Willow lost, I was like, nah, you shouldn't. Yeah, I still to this day feel like Willow was the one to capitalize on. And it just because I think that this one, though, opens puts a bigger spotlight on the fact that in 2023, Tony Khan has not really pulled the trigger on the big babyface title changes on Ring of Honor pay-per-view. You had 2 at Supercard of Honor with Mark Briscoe coming up short against Samoa Joe, as well as Claudio beating Eddie Kingston. Then you had Death Before Dishonor. Then you had Death Before Dishonor with Willow coming up short against Athena, and then you have here with Billie coming up short against Athena as well. And it's just like, this used to be the thing that Tony Khan was great at, was knowing what time to pull the trigger on the babyface winning the championship, and he just doesn't seem like he has figured that out in Ring of Honor quite yet.
And the question I have when it comes to Ring of Honor booking in general, is it just him doing it? Like, is it just like, because I know he has creative with like Dynamite, he has creative with Collision. Does he have that with Ring of Honor by any chance? Like, is it just him, or does he have like a team that's like deciding these things?
I heard a couple of months back when I was in Chicago that he had a team that was working with him for Ring of Honor, and it's like the regular guys that we know working creative, like your Will Washington, your Sanjay Dutt, your Jimmy Jacobs, and I know that's similar to what they have on AEW for their creative, but I'm not too sure how much or how little Tony Khan is involved in the creative. I just know for sure he's the guy that's making all the decisions.
Yeah, because the reason why I asked that too is because it's like, as much as I don't want to put it all on TK, I'm like, maybe there's people advising him, hey, this is how you should do it, or go with this or go with that. Again, this is something that we don't know, we can't confirm or deny, so it's not like. But to me, like if you're saying like what you said, like, hey, he knew at the times how to pull the triggers, because we've seen it ourselves too. Like, hey, this was the perfect time, somebody making champion. But now if he's being hesitant, maybe it's a TK issue, or maybe he's listening to a team like, hey, this is how we should do it. Again, we just don't know yet. That's something we just don't know.
Yeah. We'll see as time progresses, but let us know in the live chat your match of the night, your MVP, LVP. Out of 10, what did you give the show? Ring of Honor Final Battle 2023. And of course, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle, or thumbs up for the show. For me and Josh, thumbs in the middle for the Ring of Honor Final Battle 2023 in 3, 2, 1. Thumbs up across the board from me and Josh. Josh, what do you give the show out of 10?
I think I'm gonna be the high man on this. I think I'm gonna go. I mean, give it 8.5. I thought it was really good for the expectations that I had. Exceeded the expectations, and there was a lot of good matches that I enjoyed. But yeah, 8.5.
I'm not mad at that at all. I'm going to go 8 out of 10. I thought that the main event was great. The fight without honor was fantastic. I thought the opener was lucha goodness. Like I said before, the survival of the fittest was probably the best layout of any matchup on the card, and everybody shining in that way. When you have 4 to 5 great matches on the show, it's an easy thumbs up, an easy 8 out of 10. You know what? I'm gonna match Josh. I'm gonna go 8.5 out of 10.
We had Keith Lee and Taylor. We didn't even mention that.
So,
I mean,
big meaty men slapping meat. We got that. We got this was like a buffet of wrestling goodness. Gave you a little bit of everything that you could want from a professional wrestling pay-per-view show. What was your match of the night, Josh?
That's a good one. I'm gonna probably go with the TV title match. I was gonna lean towards Lee versus Taylor because I really thought they both showed out. I do agree with what you said of these guys do moves that they shouldn't be doing at their sizes. Shane Taylor, it really took me a while to get used to him because I guess with Shane Taylor, I think it was more the presentation. I'm like, what's this guy really about? Like, what's there? Like, what's, what does he do that's gonna make me a fan? And these are certain things that he's done over the years. Like he'd have to take Shane Taylor promotions. That kind of really expanded like his character, like his talking. He was able to talk more. But then also when you see like his wrestling itself gotten better too. Like he's showcased his wrestling. He's doing new stuff in the ring while still being himself. And that's what I liked about. That's what I really like about Shane Taylor. So I was gonna lean with that, but then I'm like, the TV title match was fun because again, it was so unpredictable, but at the same time, the right person did win the title.
Absolutely agree with you. I definitely debated if I wanted to give it to the TV title match, the main event, but I eventually fell on the fight without honor, them top guys versus Blackpool Combat Club. That was just an excellent trios match. One of the best that I've seen from Ring of Honor as far as trios matches goes. Who was your MVP for the show, Josh?
MVP? I'm gonna go with the ladies. I'm gonna go with Athena and Billie Starkz. They got the main event spot. I can't be mad at that.
They got the main event spot and they delivered a great match. So I agree with you. The MVPs for me, Athena, the long reign, my women's wrestler of the year, and Billie Starkz, like I said, probably when she's 21. I'll be saying the same thing about her around this time of the year, 3 years from now, 2 years from now. Billie Starkz, the women's wrestler of the year in the future for sure. LVP for the show, Josh.
LVP. Probably the Texas crowd. They didn't want to come to the arena,
Hey, they were hot though. They were hot for the show.
I mean, the ones that showed up. I mean, the ones that didn't want to go to the show and they had the opportunity to go.
You said, fuck them guys. Those are LVP. My LVP for me is Anthony Henry, and I'm not going to give it to Vert Vixen because we've had her on the channel a few times. Shout out to Vert Vixen. So yeah, Anthony Henry, you're alone. You're alone on getting your LVP. You did not need to be on this show and take up 5 minutes, even though it was nice to see Eddie Kingston. That is our Ring of Honor Final Battle 2023 review. Josh, thank you so much for joining me. Let the people know where they can follow you on social media and when they'll see you next time.
You can follow me, JMPunk321, Twitter and Instagram. And hopefully we'll be back on Elite Heat if Chris is able to come on, because I know he has like his work scheduling. So if he's able to come on, we'll be back Wednesday. That's the goal right now.
There you have it. And you can follow me on the Twitter machine at TrueHeelSP3. Follow the gang, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at True Heel Heat. Patreon.com/True Heel Heat. $3 a month gets you exclusive content, the True Heel Heat Prediction Championship, and more. And you can get your merchandise for True Heel Heat at ProWrestlingTees.com, as well as ForYourWear.com. And of course, check out all the great content we got on the channel right now. Like I said at the top of the show, go check out the full episode of yesterday's True Heel Heat 255 flagship podcast with myself, Miss Chrissy Love, talking about why AEW may lose WBD due to CM Punk, Kenny Omega out indefinitely, Liv Morgan on mug shorties, as well as much, much more. So check out the True Heel Heat flagship podcast. For myself, True Jaw Josh, we want to thank you all for joining us live. Thank you for watching us on demand. This has been our Ring of Honor ROH Final Battle 2023 review. We are signing off until next time.